Hello everybody, Dawn of Dusk here. So today I want to talk a little bit about the mess that's going on in Baltimore. And I think that I've maintained a neutral position in this whole thing all along, because to me, until all the facts are presented, there really is no way of ascertaining exactly what went on. Now, what we do know is that, and if you look at this on the surface, we know that a healthy 25-year-old person was placed into the back of a paddy wagon and did not arrive at their destination alive. So naturally there is your first instinct is to point a finger at the cops and accuse them of murder. And as this case progressed, and the Baltimore Police Department tried to suggest that these injuries were self-inflicted, and this is a broken neck, the whole thing became kind of surreal, because I wasn't born yesterday, and I have never heard of a case or an incident where a person has managed to kill themselves by breaking their own neck. It's actually insulting. And then of course the looting and the rioting started, and we'll get into that in a bit. But a couple of days later, the prosecutor now comes out and they arrest these 6 police officers in what seems like an incredibly short amount of time. If this was a case that didn't get all the national attention that this one's been getting, it would take weeks and weeks and weeks to put together enough information to indict 6 people, much less police officers. So I was watching Fox News the other day, and they were interviewing a cop who was incognito. His identity was completely disguised. And he brought forward a couple of things that kind of shed a new light. And this is after the indictment and the rioting and the looting had ceased. And what he said was, now, as far as the credibility of this cop, well, I'll let you be the judge on that. But what the cop said was that in the toxicology report, which has not yet been officially released, heroin and marijuana were found in Freddie Gray's system. What he also said, which is something the news has not been covering as of yet, is that Freddie Gray was a known heroin dealer in that area, and that when they first spotted Freddie Gray, they had witnessed him make a small goods transaction for cash out on the street, implying that there was a drug sale. And Freddie Gray saw the cops and ran, as you would expect. But when they caught up with him, there was no evidence of drugs, but he did have a knife on him. Now this is where they screwed up, meaning the police. They decided to charge him for the weapon, for the knife, because there was no evidence, even though they had witnessed this small goods transaction, There was no evidence. So they couldn't make the drug charge, the drug sale charge, stick. So what we have to ask ourselves is, did Freddie Gray, when he saw the police, swallow the drugs, which is a common practice, did he swallow the drugs? So did he swallow the drugs? Now, that presents a little bit of a different scenario, because let's keep in mind, now let's say that he did swallow the drugs and he was being influenced by these drugs. Now here's a man in the back of a paddy wagon. This is obviously not a model citizen, and that doesn't justify his death. I mean, you know, we all do have civil liberties, like it or not, whether we're criminals or law-abiding citizens. But this is a man in the back of a paddy wagon, his hands behind his back, and he's unsecured. And now we also know, if what this cop says is true, that he is under the influence. Now, to anybody who's ever ridden in a bus, particularly in the cities, I mean, I know I grew up in New York City. When you would ride the bus and there was no room left in the seats and you were standing, if that bus driver hits those brakes, you go flying forward. Is it possible that Freddie Gray, under the influence, is standing in the back of this paddy wagon for whatever reason, or sitting in a way that's not secure, and, you know, this cop driving him to booking hits his brake, not in an aggressive way, but just, you know, the way we normally would when we're driving in traffic, and is it possible that he fell forward with enough force to break his neck? Well, I think that is quite feasible. You know, fall forward, hit the bulkhead, break your neck. It's very easy to see how that could happen. So the thing I would encourage everyone to do is, until all of this comes out, you know, it seems like this prosecutor was just in a rush to quell the crowd, to quell the mob. It was to appease the mob. You know, it was let's rush to an indictment so that there's no more looting and rioting, and we'll give the people exactly what they want. But that, you know, that's not the way our system works. We seem to forget that we're all innocent until proven guilty. And we've become an instant gratification society where we need everything now. You know, we can't wait. Even when it comes to judicial matters, we just can't wait. We compile a list of evidence in our own heads, and we decide that all of that is just and valid reason. So we have to wait. We have to see what comes of this. We have to see what evidence is presented. There's obviously some negligence on the part of the police, because you're transporting a man that you've taken into custody in an unsafe manner. When the police come and arrest you, they have an obligation to keep you safe while they're taking you from point A to point B. Obviously that wasn't done here. So we know there was a civil rights violation. But murder with a depraved heart, I mean, that, you know, that's a very, very serious charge. You're suggesting that these cops set out to kill this guy. And, you know, I find that one a bit tough to swallow. So I think the decision of the prosecutor was politically motivated, and that's a shame. Because whether you like the cops or you don't like the cops, the reality is they are entitled to the same protection They have the same civil rights, they have the same judicial rights if they're arrested that we do. And so I would encourage everyone to just kind of wait, sit it out, let the truth and the facts come out, allow the facts to be presented, and when they are presented, we have to accept what a jury of their peers decides. We probably will not hear all the evidence. I don't know if they will televise the entire trial. Even if they do, most of us are too busy working to sit in front of the television for 7 or 8 hours or 10 hours a day listening to it all. They will be presented with all the facts. And we have to accept that their decision will be the right one. If whether these cops are acquitted or whether these cops are charged, found guilty, that's going to be up to a jury to decide. But be prepared to accept their finding. And if you're not, then maybe this just is not the country for you. Maybe you belong in the Middle East, where mob mentality rules, and when a mob has decided that someone has committed a crime, you simply rally around and you stone them to death and you celebrate their death and you move on to the next person that you're prepared to kill. But we're in America, guys. This is a place where there is a process, there's due process. And if these cops are guilty, then so be it, then they deserve to do the time. But if they're not, then we have to be willing to accept the fact that this case was not as it first seemed. So that's it for today, guys. Again, this is Dawn of Dusk, wishing everybody a good week. And a happy and a healthy day. Bye-bye. Those are baby sandhill cranes. You see that? Little sandhill cranes? Awesome little birds. They grow really super fast too. Really cool.